is Top Accolade Global News Updates. I am Soibifa Jackridge. In the packed paediatric emergency room of a Lahore public hospital, parents holding sick children lined up for treatment this week, part of a surge of young patients caused by the air pollution crisis in Pakistan's second most populous city. Health officials estimated there has been at least a 50% rise in pediatric patients due to respiratory issues. Exacerbated by poor air quality in the last months, Lahore, known historically as a city of gardens, is now choking with toxic smog that placed it as the world's worst for air quality last year. As cooler temperatures took hold in November, air quality levels spiraled 24 of the least 30 days hazardous or very unhealthy air quality. According to Swiss group IQ Air, the city of 11 million, considered the cultural capital of Pakistan, has been blanketed in thick haze that partially blocks the sun and shrouds streets with fog at night. The problem becomes more severe in cooler months as temperature inversion prevents a layer of warm air from rising and traps pollutants closer to the ground. The UN Children's Agency says globally outdoor air pollution contributed to 154,000 deaths of children aged below 5 in 2019. In Pakistan, it is one of the top 5 causes of death among the entire population, and young children are the most severely affected along with the elderly. Children are psychologically more vulnerable to air pollution than adults because their brains, lungs, and other organs are still developing, said UNICEF, adding children breathe twice as fast as adults, increasing exposure. A blast at an explosive store wrecked building and caused massive damage to an industrial zone on the Seychelles' main island, Mahé, officials said, prompting the president to declare a state of emergency on Thursday. The blast shook the island as heavy rains triggered flooding, which killed at least 2 people, authorities said. Footage broadcast on national television showed streets covered in deep mud and strewn with debris and uprooted trees. Following an explosion at the CCCL explosive stores that has caused massive damage to the Providence industrial area and the surrounding areas and major destruction caused by flooding due to heavy rains. The president has declared a state of emergency for today, the 7th December. President Wavil Ramkalawan's office said in a statement, "Everyone is being asked to stay at home. All schools will be closed. Only workers and the essential services and persons traveling will be allowed free movement." A public radio station reported that 2 people were killed and 1 injured by floods overnight on Mahé. The government official visit Seychelles account on X said the international airports and ferries between its island remain operational for tourists. The Seychelles, a major tourist destination, is made up of 115 islands and is the least populous country in Africa, with about 100 people. Unidentified governments are surveilling smartphone users via their apps' push notifications, a U.S. senator warned on Wednesday. In a letter to the Department of Justice, Senator Ron Wyden said foreign officials were demanding the data from Alphabet, Google, and Apple. Although details were sparse, the letter lays out yet another path by which governments can track smartphones. Apps of all kinds rely on push notifications to alert smartphone users to incoming messages, breaking news, and other updates. These are the audible dings or visual indicators users get when they receive an email or their sports team win a game. What users often do not realize is that almost all such notifications travel over Google and Apple's servers. That gives the 2 companies unique insight into the traffic flowing from those apps to their users, and in return put them in a unique position to facilitate government surveillance of how users are using particular apps, Wyden said. He asked the Department of Justice to repeal or modify any policies that hindered public discussions of push notification spying. The Department of Justice declined to comment on the push notification surveillance or whether it had prevented Apple or Google from talking about it. Most users give push notifications little thought, but they have occasionally attracted attention from technologists because of the difficulty of deploying them without sending data to Google or Apple. EU lawmakers and governments were still wrangling on Thursday over several key issues on landmark rules governing artificial intelligence. Two sources familiar with the matter said. As talks extended through the night into a second day, the two sides agreed to a provisional deal on how to regulate fast-growing generative AI systems, such as ChatGPT, in the early hours of Thursday, overcoming one of the biggest stumbling blocks to a final deal. The other one, the use of AI in biometric surveillance and source code access, were yet to be debated after 17 hours of talks. Two sources familiar with the matter said they declined to be identified because the talks are confidential. The Council of European Union on Thursday postponed a press conference scheduled for 0700 GMT until further notice as negotiations continue. The discussion between EU governments and lawmakers started at 1400 GMT on Wednesday. EU countries and lawmakers have been trying to finalize details of the draft rules proposed by the European Commission 2 years ago, but have struggled to keep up with the rapidly evolving technology that made a consensus hard to achieve. The new law could become the blueprint for other governments as countries seek to craft rules for their own AI industry, providing an alternative to the US light touch approach and China's interim rules, agreeing provisionally terms on foundation models. The generative AI such as OpenAI, which trains on large sets of data to perform various tasks, would be a big step, but a late proposal by France, Germany, and Italy that makers of generative AI models should self-regulate had added a point of discord. Such a move, however, would benefit France-based AI company Mistral and Germany's Aleph Alpha. On biometric surveillance, EU lawmakers want to ban the use of AI, but governments have pushed for an exception for national security, defense, and military purpose. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley was the subject of repeated attacks during Wednesday's Republican presidential debates, as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis sought to blunt her momentum just weeks before the party's first nominating contest in Iowa. The debates, which also included tech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, saw a flurry of insults interspersed with discussions of Ukraine's war, the Israel-Hamas conflict, and the U.S. southern border. But aside from Christie, who has put criticism of Trump at the center of his campaign, none of the candidates on stage in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, appeared wild to go after the frontrunner directly, a reflection of Trump's continued popularity among the Republican base. Asked about Trump's comment at a Fox News town hall on Tuesday that he would not be a dictator during a second term, except on day one, Christie called him an angry, bitter man, intent on retribution, and repeatedly demanded DeSantis say whether he believes Trump is fit for the office. DeSantis deflected several times, instead referring to the 77-year-old Trump's age and arguing the presidency is better suited for someone younger. Haley also offered only muted criticism, saying Trump represented chaos and blaming him for adding billions of dollars to the national debt. Instead, DeSantis and Ramaswamy spent most of their time taking shots at Haley, who has risen in polls and drawn increased interest from donors on the strength of their previous debate performances. DeSantis boasted about legislation he passed in Florida banning gender-affirming medical care for transgender youth and accused Haley of opposing the law, an assertion Haley denied. That is the size of top accolade global news updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Thursday.